enough with me running around in circles. Putting in our rankings today, I think it's funny because I think me and Chris's was all like pretty much identical. Andrew, you had a few that were a little off there in that 1S division that were, it's been chaotic all year. So those were the things that were kind of different. But let's just kick off our rankings. Let's just get into it instead of me continuing to run around in circles. Number 10. So here we go. I have Taylor County again. I've been flipping this spot most weeks. It's either been Taylor County or McClay. With Taylor County taking a larger loss, it's kind of a little bit of a choice, but they played a really, really good Florida High team. And I think Andrew and Chris could talk a little bit more on Taylor County's effort and being at the game. But I still think Taylor County is still, a really good squad, a very good, out of the metropolitan Tallahassee area type of team. And I still think they deserve this 10 spot ranking. I still think they're above, the rest of the teams below them. Andrew, Chris, I'll have you take over a little more on Taylor County. I know you guys have a little more insight on them while I get my dinner out of the oven.
Andrew, you go first. I'm still setting up on my end.
All right. Yeah, at least we get a cleaner start. I feel like we're on track here a little better. But yeah, man, I agree. I think we all have well, I guess no spoilers. I guess some people read. But anyways, Taylor County, yeah, I agree, Jack. I have Taylor at my 10 spot as well. Yeah, as far as the game versus NFC, I was encouraged. You kind of look at the stuff, look at the highlights, look at some of the footage from the previous games. It was really run heavy, and they were really kind of just loading up the box. Seemed like that was pretty much the show, right, with Jaquan Clayton. Just kind of smash and grab is kind of what they were going for. But I liked they kind of opened things up a little bit. There was a lot more passing that we saw from Hamilton. And, of course, the skill positions are going to be really exciting for them. You talk about J.J. Clayton, in addition to Jaquan Clayton, Zachary Jackson, Collier, of course, kick return, some of those DBs. But, guys, we talk about the youth for Wakulla. This team is so, so young. You take out Clayton, Jaquan, number 8, the chief running back, and everybody in key situations are sophomores, man. And so this team, I think, is going to grow into this season. Kind of the narrative we've been talking about, and I like what Coach Metcalf is doing down there. We really like NFC. They're one of those kind of smaller schools that what would have been that 2A, 1A, 3A kind of corridor we like here in the Big Bend. You kind of look at our lists, and there's a lot of the traditional 1A, 2A, 3A schools in there. And but give credit to NFC. They really kind of took advantage of that. There were critical junctures early where they did enough, and I thought the defense really showed through, because I'm thinking back, and I'm wondering if they play this game against 2021 NFC, what the game looks like. But yeah, I like some signs for Taylor County, obviously dropping big to NFC. But you look at it, I think, as we look across our ranks, once again, try not to spoiling too much, but I think they were the outside of the top 8, like 8 down. I think DRS was the only team that won as far as our kind of collective rankings, if you average it out. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe DRS was anybody below Rickards, depending on where we had Rickards kind of in the mix. So I think Taylor County, at least for this week, can kind of stay pat in that top 10. But I like them as kind of the if 10's our divider, I like Taylor County going forward. And I think, despite the youth and they're going to continue to get things on track, I think they'll be in the mix for this playoff conversation, man. 8, I believe, of the 15 teams in the region are going to get in the playoffs. And I think they'll be able to make some noise. Big test coming up this week. As always, long-winded response. But what you think, Chris?
Yeah, just feed off of you, Andrew. Taylor County, despite losing 41-0, they definitely showed a lot of potential. That this team is young, but they're willing to open up that playbook. If any means necessary to find ways get the W or try to make it to the playoffs. But I kept them at 10 because like you touched on it, Andrew. The teams that I have like like my outside bubble didn't really win, so it wasn't anything for me to take Taylor County out for any kind of reason for going into week 5. I mean, had Gaston County found a way, I probably would have flipped them, with Taylor County, but nobody came up with a major victory for me to flip or knock Taylor County out of the top 10 rankings. But there's definitely a lot of potential in this team, and a huge opportunity this upcoming Friday as they I'm not sure if they're hosting or they're going on the road to Bluntstown, but I know that they're definitely playing Bluntstown this Friday. So yeah, Taylor County number 10.
Yeah, I think they're on the road, just to jump in there.
Yeah, they're on the road. I have Max Preps up right now. Wanted to harp on what Andrew mentioned about Jerquan Clayton. Glad to see that he is staying consistent from where he was last season. He was that big guy on the rush last season in just those 5 games, and it looks like he's staying consistent so far, breaking over 100 rushing yards on the year. Hopefully he'll get his numbers up even higher. He's a talented player for sure. But no, I mean, Taylor County has a lot of potential, so I mean it will be a big game against this Blountstown team. That would be a big momentum booster if they can get a win, especially over on the road, and a pretty competitive environment to say the least. Number 11, not number 11. Oh my God, what am I doing? Number 9. I think we'll probably talk a lot about this team, just because they've just been. I think they've definitely been one of the most popular teams, I think, to talk about right now, and I don't know if it's for the right reasons. I have Childs at number 9. I say 8. I meant 9. I'm sorry, my brain's all over the place. I might have said 9. Anyway, that's not the point. Childs, 0-4. Andrew mentioned it last week. You've had Gadsden County teams in the past that have gotten in with no wins, 1 win, 2 win. I think they got in last year with 2 wins. Is it possible for Childs to possibly get into the playoffs with no wins or a win? Yeah, no, it's definitely a possibility considering the schedule that this team is playing. And I think we saw just how good this team is and how hard the schedule they're playing is this year, this past weekend, and only falling to Niceville, who is constantly a perennial power in the Panhandle every year. I think Andrew again mentioned this last week. This is a Niceville team that seemingly just never falls off. They don't go away. I think that's why a lot of people don't like them. They don't go away. And Childs only lost by a field goal. I mean, that's impressive in its own sake. I mean, you could go back to talk about the Wakulla game or, there was another game in that mix that the Fletcher game is the other one. I mean, this team's they're good. They've just fallen so short over and over again. And you have Trey Jones continuously just destroying that rushing game. He rushed for 198 yards, 3 scores last game. I mean, this is just a Childs team that you gotta feel for them. I mean, they're good, but they're just inches away every week from victory, and they just can't get there. And I mean, we'll go into my predictions a little later, but I guess I'll tease it a little bit. But I mean, I'm feeling confident about them this week. I mean, I feel like this is going to be a turning point week for a lot of teams. I think last week was a big week for teams to win, and then I think here is another big week for them to turn things around as well. And I feel like this could be the time for Childs. So I don't know. I'm interested to see what happens in this next week. But again, this team is just playing a brutal schedule. We'll throw it over to Andrew here and give his take on the Timberwolves.
Yeah, obviously we've been talking about it and kind of in the vein of that conversation, being competitive, seeing progress, and just what they're doing in their run game, and just being able to keep pace with the team with Niceville. That's what we talked about last week, right? Yeah, they played Wakulla really good, but Wakulla was kind of growing into it, and we were kind of trying to figure out at that point what Wakulla was. But as the more the sample sizes get larger, I mean, the less you can kind of hide the fact that this is a quality ball club. And guys, you look at open this corridor. If the schedules are updated correct, Niceville was the last away game, so they're going to run the stretch the rest of their district games, and then of course starting this Friday, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 home games, and a lot of these are gettable. You could potentially see Childs, just kind of spitballing it, taking 4 out of 6 guys, and even if you get to a 4-6 mark, like going 4-2 over the next slate of games, 4-6 with this schedule, definitely, I think a gettable playoff spot. But yeah, you got some big games going in here, and these will be exciting. All these teams having to travel. Jacksonville, Oakleaf having to come 2.5 hours. Mosley having to come 3 hours. Crestview having to come 2.5, 3 hours. You got Clearwater coming over, and then you bring up rival Leon on a Thursday night, and then of course you got Gadsden County. So, I mean, guys, the slate is open. And so we talked about Childs having the brutal schedule. Like, if they can get out of this and get one, they could potentially get rolling. They got a lot of home cooking to go forward here. And, I mean, on a weekly basis, right? We're talking about Trey Jones, who goes over 200 total yards. I think with receiving, he goes for like 223 all-purpose. But it's not like 3 yards a carry that he's getting. He's still averaging 8+. I think he's still right around 9 for the season, which is just absurd, guys. I'll throw it over to Chris.
Yeah, I am officially going to announce that Childs is the best 0-4 team I have ever seen. Like this team, like they know how to compete. Like it is unbelievable. Like how well these guys are playing. They're just one play short. And like I'm just really really hoping like these guys don't get discouraged. As like the season progresses, because like there is still a lot of football left to be played. Like I mean like although like they lost to they lost to Fletcher, they lost to Niceville. Like it actually made me a lot more confident in Child's remaining games. Like I actually believe that Child's has a real shot. Actually coming out on top in their second half of the season. And like Andrew said, their remaining games are in Tallahassee. So like it is definitely going to be a huge boost, to be at home, for the remaining of the regular season. And like I'm looking at their schedule right now, like this Friday they got Oakleaf, that's gonna be tough. Mosley, Crestview, Leon, American Collegiate Academy, Gadsden County. There is not a game on the schedule that they can't win. Like the season is definitely not over. For Childs, out of everybody that hasn't won a game up to this point, like I'm definitely the most confident with Childs. As the team that can find a way to get over the hump and make it to the playoffs.
One more question I have for you guys here, and just I think this was something I was looking into in the beginning of the the off season, is talking about the region and district Childs plays in, and if it is a possibility that Childs could get in with a not the best record in the world. Now I want to talk about some of the teams that are in the well, let's start off with the district. I mean, you have Crestview, Mosley, and Niceville in this district, and then you have Childs and Leon in the district alone. Then when we move out of the region, you have you have all these larger Pensacola schools, like Tate, Pace, Navarre, Milton, and Gulf Breeze. But then the big thing comes when we get over to around Jacksonville and then over by the Daytona Beach area. You have Bartram Trail, which we saw what kind of team they are against Lincoln. You have Buchholz, who has just turned into this dominant team out by Gainesville. Creekside, who had a strong season last year. Fleming Island, who dismantled Rickards. Oakleaf, who's had a strong year as well, who took down Fleming Island. This is District 3 in Region 1. And then you get over to the smaller district around St. John County, which is Flagler, Palm Coast. Then you have Nice, and then Ponte Vedra. Ponte Vedra played a pretty competitive game over by with Florida High. Guys, in putting that forward, my question is, is this region too deep for Childs to make the playoffs, even if they do play a good schedule and might not have the best record?
You know, with them being at home, like I'm very confident with Childs. Like what they definitely have to find a way to win against Mosley, Crestview, and Oakley. Like I think if they can find a way to go 2-1, like that'll be huge. If they can find a way to go 2-1, like I think that'll definitely clinch them to getting in for that playoff spot. 1 and 2 is it's gonna be up in the air, but 2-1 within these next 3 weeks, if they can find a way to do that, it's no doubt that Childs can definitely get it, because I'm pretty confident that they can get through Leon, American Collegiate Academy, and Gas, and it's mainly these next 3 weeks. This is going to be the most critical weeks of the Childs Timberwolves lives, and for any Childs faithful out there, definitely attend these next 3 weeks, because it is going to be very critical. This is really going to determine, their season right there, these next 3 weeks. Andrew, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, the region's strong, but it all comes down to the strength of schedule. And so, I mean, give me 48 hours, Jack. When we talk Friday night, I may have a better answer. I want to dig deep into these schedules, because that's what it's going to come down to, right? You would think these teams are probably going to be floating around 7-3, 6-4, 8-2. A lot of those guys that you talked about. But it has to be based off their opponents and then their opponents' opponents. And then once you kind of get into that metric with the playoff points, Jack, you're essentially looking at, for any given team, having roughly 110 opponents. Probably between 90 and 110 opponents as a sample size. So it's basically like who's good and who's doing well. I don't think until we see the first rankings. I don't know if you know when those are coming out, Jack. I can't find a listing on the FHSA site.
I have no idea what the FHSA does. They are on their own schedule over there. I don't know what's going on in their heads over there, but I don't know. Their volleyball rankings also had me heated up too, so they're a completely different monster.
For some reason, week 6, at the start of week 6, so after the majority of teams are, roughly 4 or 5 in, from what I remember, that is kind of the area. I might have to call up the FHSA the next couple of days. But having said that, there's really no way to tell. We could guess, but, not all regions are created equal. So do I think a majority of teams in our area with this schedule get in at 4 and 6, if that's the number we're throwing out? I think yes. But obviously, we've seen throughout the playoffs that's not necessarily a guarantee. And I don't really think that I can give an educated guess. So I've been sticking to my guns that yes, it is possible, Jack. But I want to dig a little deeper into these schedules. Like when you talk about going next level, because once you get – because the FHSA, the way they score it, they aren't taking the teams on your schedule. For example, Childs is going to play Gadsden County late in the season, right? So Gadsden County would be a disservice to Childs due to the 0-4 record. But Gadsden County won't get incorporated into Childs' point scoring system until that game is final, or there is a result or forfeit or something. So they're just kind of like waiting in the wings, right? So that's the back end of it that you don't even know. So if you project teams or they keep on going, you kind of average that out. For example, like Mosley, a team in their district that we talked about, they played that team from Pennsylvania in that Disney Classic. So who knows what in the world they're going to do? They're 1 and 3 right now. Of course, playing up in Pensacola, but that's something we have no idea what's going to result in, and their opponents, right? So I'm looking at, they're playing North Pocono, and these are, of course, teams that nobody from our area probably knows about or really cares as we get into the weeds. And Scranton High School, right? Whatever their seasons, those teams are all going to be brought into the Florida conversation because of the Mosley connection. So it just shows you just like the spider web effect that you can get and how every team is basically interwoven between 90 and 110 other teams. And then you really kind of start to get the ball rolling and see how chaotic this system is. So once again, long-winded response, Jack. I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm going to try to dig a little deeper, chip away, see when these playoff points can come into the fold, and we'll get things rolling. Because as long as those teams, it's not just FHSA teams. So just want to keep that in mind. And there's a lot to be unpacked there as far as those point system goes.
As someone who had to take math three times over in college, I'm going to leave all the statistical and math stuff in addition and all that stuff up to you, because you already seem like you know what you're talking about. So,
it's all a facade.
Yeah, I'll throw all that stuff over to you. But no, I am interested to see what comes out of this, because it's such a weird and particular process, and it's still very new. But it's interesting to see how things will fold out. But anyway, over to number 8. This was a team that was able to snap kind of a losing streak last week. I believe all of us voted for the same team here. That is Rickards over on the south side. They got a dominating win over Godby, 45-13. It's the most dominant win in this rivalry since 2014. The last time the point margin was this big was when Godby beat Rickards 41-7 back in 2014. I see Shakari Winters is in here. He had a unbelievable Friday night, throwing for, I believe, 5 touchdowns, rushing for 1, something in that ballpark there. I don't have the stats up with me right now. Keon Brown, the Oklahoma commit, this kid just can turn on the wheels, and when he doesn't have the room to run, he's just, a clutch target. He had 2 touchdowns receiving as well, and then you got Rico Watkins doing a lot as well. Basically, Rickards was firing all cylinders. Coach Lewis told me after the game, this is the team that they want people to see, the team that they wanted people to expect from the beginning of the season, and how they produced. And they were just dominant from straight out. They were looking like the Rickards team they were last year, and just being able to take off and, shut down teams. It's going to be a big week for them. We'll talk about it later. They have Miami Edison coming up to Rickards, playing on that blue turf, so it should be a great environment out there. But Rickards, things are starting to get back on track for them, and see where things go. So I'll throw it over to you guys.
You want it, Chris? You got it.
Sure. I'll take it. Yeah, I mean, in the words of Lizzo's song, it's about damn time. Finally, Rickards, finally, like this is the Rickards that we have been waiting on. It's not just them getting the victory over their rival Godby. It's how they won. Like this is the Rickards that I was looking forward to, personally. Like I was really impressed the way that they competed against Gabi, and this was definitely much needed before going into a very interesting matchup this weekend, going up against Miami Edison. It's always pretty tough going against those South Florida teams. I mean, this definitely could have not came at a better time, and we will see if this is the turning the table. So for this Rickards team, Andrew, who you got at number 8?
Yes, we're on the same page. So I know you guys had Rickards up a little higher last week. So I had Rickards jumping up a couple spot or 2, slide into the mix here. Yeah, I mean, kind of like what you said. I mean, you guys said it all. Rick seems to be getting healthy, and like Coach Lewis said, this team is kind of resembling what they want to bring to the table, right? Using Jakari's dual threat ability, get him slinging in the passing game, and hit those wide receivers. Like you said, obviously, the thing that stuck out to me is Rico, not only offensively, but then you throw him in the mix as a DB. He had a 63-yard pick 6 in the game. And then Rickards obviously lit up the scoreboard, looking to exercise some demons the last time they played on the turf. Didn't do too hot, but that's going to be a huge matchup. Edison we'll, of course, talking picks and stuff later, I assume. But they're one of the harder teams to kind of figure out. Early scouting report that I saw. So it'll be interesting to see how Rick goes. I'm still on the fence about that selection that we'll get to later, but obviously Rick trending up, and yeah, I'm interested to see how high this trend goes, man. But good to see records on the rebound for sure.
Yeah, this Miami Edison squad and this Rickard squad, looking at them side by side, they're kind of similar in ways in their scenes, though. Miami scene, is deeper just with being a bigger city. And, I believe Edison is coming off of a loss to Northwestern, who is a power down there, is a power in the state. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when they clash together. Going into our number 7 picks, this is where we have a little bit of difference going on between, I think me and Lucas were identical. So Andrew disagreed a little more. Chris, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the document, and I didn't use the last names here. So I'll start off. I have Monroe over here at number 7. I always am very interested to see how teams come out of that off week and what kind of response they have. Monroe went into the off week with that 20-point loss to McCullough, and didn't sit with them well. So I'm guessing the practice was pretty tough going into this next week here. This is still a team, I constantly say it every week, this is a Monroe squad with a lot of talent. I think the big thing is just putting the talent together, finding that system, and putting it into place and executing. And this is a huge game. There are like 4 or 5 different games I wish I could be at every week. Be at this week. And this Monroe game is another one. They're playing Bradford, who they are I believe they're 3S. No, they're 2S. They're 2S school, so one classification above Monroe. But this is a team that's, ragging on a lot of teams in the area. They beat Baldwin 35-0. They beat Middleburg 21-0. They beat Eastside and Gainesville 28-0. This is a team that hasn't allowed a point this entire year. To add on top of that, Monroe is going to Bradford. So, I mean, this is the test right now for Monroe. If they can win this game, then that gives them momentum moving deeper into the schedule, where they get a Rocky Bayou Christian team later on, and then they have Florida High in the beginning of October, which will be, we'll see where Monroe's at, and it will show, how they stack up. But I think this Monroe team has the talent. Again, it's just about putting it together. And again, as I keep saying it over and over again, just finding that system. And this Bradford game, this could be the moment for this Monroe squad to really shine. I'll throw it over to Andrew here.
Yeah, Bradford is one of the more interesting ones. Obviously, got the extra week Monroe did to prepare. Got some more footage. Like you said, they have yet to let up a point. And these aren't smaller schools from these areas. Of course, Middleburg kind of being Jacksonville area, along with Baldwin. Eastside's from that Gainesville area, of course. But these are kind of between, you kind of think about them as far as size-wise, they roughly fall into like the Florida High, Godby, Gadsden range. So if you're trying to classify them in the old kind of classifications as far as A's, you'd probably put them between 3 and 5. I think all these guys would kind of get sprinkled in the mix. So they're playing up for sure is Bradford, of course, coming out of Stark. But they're, to your point, Jack, very interesting. I like Monroe. We'll see what they got going on here. But of course, Monroe to come up later. I got JB2 coming in my 7th spot here this week. And have Monroe coming up a little later. But yeah, we talked about them. So obviously not much has changed here for these squads. Obviously Monroe and St. John Paul II in the same scenario, of course, being off. JB2, interesting game for me. They will host Christ Church Academy. They're a 1A Metro team. So the first Metro team that they've faced. And just as a comparison, guys, which I'm sure we'll get to when you guys have JP2 on the list, just coming off a 48-point loss to University Christian. So you know how we kind of always group our boys and kind of comparing them to University Christian in that realm when you talk about JP2 Monroe NFC. So interesting food for thought. But yeah, I got St. John Paul II. nothing on them. They obviously fall as a number standpoint for me, but as we kind of got like a hybrid AP power ranking situation. So JPT is going to end up 7th. But then Monroe NFC, I mean, they're going to be a big topic of conversation every single time we come on here until that gets later down the season. And I'm willing to entertain all those conversations.
Yeah, I got Monroe at number 7. It's been a pretty quiet week, from Monroe, considering that, they had a bye week, which is a much needed bye week. I'm really interested in seeing how does Monroe respond after, not having an impressive, game against a team that you felt like that you could compete against, but you fell short of that. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what is Monroe's response, because we've never never seen this before. As far as Monroe losing to a pretty decent team like Wakulla, they had to come back and find a way to respond, because previous years they've been knocked out of the playoffs, because this time around Monroe's schedule is beef up to the fullest. So I'm definitely interested in that part, but I didn't move them anywhere, mainly because bye week, and it was just a quiet week for Monroe. But they have a huge opportunity this week against Bradford. That's definitely a really good football team before they go into their classification play against Rocky Valley. So we'll see how they respond.
Yeah, it will definitely be a test for sure. One of the more entertaining games in the area. We'll get into it. The games this week are just chef's kiss. They're wonderful this week. They are so good, and I wish I could just multiply myself and go to all the ones I want to go to, but unfortunately, we have not advanced that far into technology and stuff like that. Anyway, weird tangent. Number 6. I have North Florida Christian here. One thing I wanted to mention here before I get into them is I'm looking at a picture of when they played Mariana, and this has bothered me so much. Mariana's logo is just the Washington logo, like the Huskies, turned upside down. I'm sorry, that bothers me so much. Every time I look at it, I don't see an M. I see just the W turned upside down. So I had to get that out of the way because it was bothering me. So anyway, the Eagles, this is a team, again, they've dominated so far their schedule. They've done everything right, in my opinion, in their schedule so far throughout the season. Last 2 opponents having shutouts. They've won their last 2 games, I believe, 90-0 combined, which is insane. I sound like a broken record just repeating myself from last week, but I mean, this team, the biggest thing that we're just seeing from last year is just the depth this year. We're starting to see everybody activate on this roster, and it's more than just 2 guys. It's everybody. We're seeing the acquisitions from other, guys who've transferred in. We're seeing the defense starting to get active. We're seeing, the guys that were active last year that are just staying consistent and getting better. It's impressive what this NFC team is doing. They're having another, where are they now from last year game coming up. They play Valwood this upcoming game. I believe it's Valwood. Let me pull it up here.
Yeah.
Yes, it's Valwood. Yes, thank you. Also undefeated 4-0. So again, another great game that's going to be going on over in Valwood, actually, at Valwood. So I mean, that's going to be another competitive matchup. It's going to show where each teams have grown from the past year. This was a competitive game last year that went back and forth for a while. There was a recruit from Taylor County, I believe, that transferred over to Valwood and ended up playing there. I can't remember his name. Or no, it might have been I think it was the kid that was at Monroe, and then he went to Monroe, and then he went back to Valwood because there's some stuff going on in Georgia. Anyway, that doesn't matter. It was a competitive game last year, and he was part of the scoring back and forth in that game. So this should be a good game for sure to see where each of these teams are. I personally think that NFC could run its schedule before coming to those final 2 games, which will be against Wakulla and Monroe. It will be some big tests, and I think I mentioned this in my preseason stuff. wonderful scheduling to put those two games right at the end of your schedule to get you ready for the playoffs, especially see Monroe right before a playoff. So, I mean, and then they do get a week off that final week in November too. So the schedule is just fantastic here. But I mean, I think NFC has a chance to run their schedule here to up until those two dates where I think the games get a lot more competitive. But NFC again, as I mentioned, they're just doing everything right in my opinion. Chris, we'll throw it over to you.
Yeah, I also got NFC at number 6, and man, like I am really, really impressed with NFC. And like one of the things that like Andrew and I talked about during the game and even before the game against Taylor County is like like the way that this team is doing so well without Devon Jackson, who's out with an injury. Like they are just playing lights out football right now. I mean, you got JP Pickles and Leon Washington, aka Reggie Bush 2.0, like just running all over the place. Like when I was calling the game this past Friday, like it was just a lot of like explosive plays that just like took the life out of Taylor County. And like the difference like this year is the way that they are dominating against their opponents. Like they are dominating like we've all known NFC to like do like in their their championship years. And like I said this last week, and I want to say this again this week. Like this is like the way that they have performed like their first 4 games. Like this is the best NFC team that I've seen like since that amazing 2011 year where they went undefeated and won the state championship, which was their 7th at the time. Now they have 8 state championships over at North Florida Christian. Well, like definitely looking forward to like seeing if like they can like keep that dominant consistency before they have their big battles against Wakulla, Monroe, and then postseason. Like we'll see if like they can battle JP2, which I'm crossing fingers that we can get that match up. But you never know how they like line up with the playoffs thing. But we'll cross that road when we cross that road. NFC is my number 6, and another reason why like I have them at number 6. I'll explain that when we get to number 5. Andrew, I'll go to you.
There you go. Yeah, I'm going to keep it in the district or the region. I'm a little bit of a different opinion here, guys. Of course, we all have these guys all clustered together, but I got Monroe as my number 6. Once again, kind of similar to JP2. They'll drop. I think I had them 5 last week. Basically just a product of the bye week and, of course, how impressive NFC looked, which I will get to a little later. But so I'm liking Monroe, and we'll see what they have. Like we talked about the Bradford game, that should be a good one. They're going to be playing up in this one against Bradford, and see if they can break through. I feel pretty confident that Monroe will score against Bradford and be the first points against them for this season. But I think it's going to be a big test. I don't want to sleep on that contest, especially on the road. But I like Coach Ellington and the boys on a long week because you remember that game got pushed up to a Thursday. And when you're traveling, an hour from Quincy, about an hour down to Wakulla-ish, and you bump the game up and you lose that whole day of preparation with the chaos and the weather and all that, that really affects you. And I don't want to kind of underrate that. And I think, especially in the high school game, everybody's going to have 1 or 2 bumps in the road. So really interested to see how they respond. But I'm liking Monroe, man. Got him number 6 here for me.
Yeah, that Monroe, I think you mentioned that Monroe is definitely going to break that shutout streak for sure. Just a lot of talent on that roster, and I think they'll break through in the scoring of the game, but it will be a competitive one for sure, and will be an interesting one to say the least. Moving on to number 5, I have, and again, we a little flip flop here in the picks and stuff like that. I have Andrew's number 7 pick at my number 5. I have JP2 up here. This team, this team is really like making me eat my words this season, because I was very unsure about what was going to happen with them in the offseason, and they've just dominated at everything they've done their schedule so far. After that Rickards win, they took that energy, just bottled it up, and have run through their schedule. You have these 2 shutout wins over McClay and Jefferson County. Just rolling. The last time they let up points was in that week 1 game against Rickards. And they have this Christchurch Academy game, which they're hosting. And I mean, this is another game I think they could run through as well. I don't know if they could definitely highly shut it out again. And then you have Akelines Angels, or Akelines, I think is correct. And that's another, I think that's another Metro school. No, they're freelance. Never mind. But that's another school I think they could put some points up on as well. This could be like a really, really, really good one for JP2, and builds up a ton of momentum going into that Wakulla game. Another game that the game that I last week said, underline, circle, bold, do everything that you can to it on October 7th, because that's going to be a great game as well. But they can build up a ton of momentum going into that game. You have so many options on this team. I don't think I mentioned this last week, but I was talking to Allison Posey on the sidelines when JP2 was playing Rickards, and we were talking about Tremaine Hughes, and the kid, like, not only is he just staying consistent with just his passing game and the rushing game, but he's really bulked up as well. He's built a lot of muscle since last season. He looks bigger, and he's taking that to his advantage, and he looks really good. Jaden Walden, again, we talk about him every week, but I mean, he's had a great year as well, and he's rivaling Trey Jones for that top spot for the top running back in the area. Just some names that are popping in my head right now. Jukil Whitehead, who's been fantastic as well. He's been, he's just a dominant all-around athlete. There's just so many guys on this JP2 roster that have really just started to flex their depth this year as well. Travis Mosley's another name too that comes to mind. Again, I'm sorry if I'm missing names. These are just kind of coming off the top of my head, but there's a lot of depth on this JP2 roster. This is the hottest team, in my opinion, in this insane district, in this insane region. As of now, this week, they're my favorite to get through this region and possibly up to semi-state. But again, it's very early. That's how I feel this week. It could definitely change next week and week to week. Have to emphasize that as much as I can. But this JP2 team's red hot, and I think they can make that jump to white hot in these next few games. I don't see anything derailing this team until we get to this Wakulla game, which will be a competitive one. And if they get past that too, then the road just continues to open for this team. This team just looks really good in my opinion. I think Chris started off last time, so Andrew, I'll have you take it.
Yeah, obviously talked about Monroe last time around. Echo those sentiments, Jack. Bumping up to number 5, or JP2, sorry. Echo those sentiments, of course, and that's where I want it to be fluid, right? At least I don't know this, but I'm going through here. Sorry, I had another audio splice in there. Hope that didn't make the feed. Where were we? NFC. So, yeah, I had NFC making my big jump. They tied with Rick for the biggest jump. Had them bump it up 2. Of course, product of the buys. Looking for a fluid list here, but like an NFC, you guys talked about, hit on all the marks I want to talk about. Seeing them again, and even that progression from Leon versus Taylor County, and seeing how those games changed and how the offense has changed, and the big plays, man, is just unreal. Those are going to catch your eye, but some great defensive performances. We talked about Joey Irving, and of course, in the chat, I know Zion Perrette, sorry if I got your name wrong, big dog, but had a fantastic game as a DB. Broke up a would-have-been touchdown we talked about, of course, the defense getting improved, and we talk about making big plays. Talk about Taylor County's passing game. That was a bona fide touchdown that he broke up. Had some awesome plays in the middle of the field as well. Just lockdown coverage. I like him. It'll be interesting to see as far as we get to the conversation with Valwood, and I'll kind of table those conversations with them as far as both of these defenses progressing. But I think it's going to set up a really fun matchup. And I want to know who wants to go against this NFC offense. Because you talk about Leon Washington Jr., you talk about J.P. Pickles, guys. Also, you've just got a monster 4-star wide receiver that's somehow falling into the second tier of this conversation, Traylon Ray, of course, wide receiver, defensive back. Yeah, he's still on this team, and he's still doing big things, guys. That hasn't changed. I really like NFC, and why I got them highest of the group here as my number 5.
Yeah, definitely understandable. But why you have them at number 5, and then it's add to that. I mean, the majority of the team is full of sophomores and juniors. Like that. That's the crazy part about this NFC team. But for this week, I still put them at number 6. I have JP2 at number 5. Despite JP2 having the bye week, just like Monroe, it's been a quiet week for them. But reason why I have Monroe still at number 5 is because of Rickers winning against Godby. Like, had Rickers lost against Godby, like I would have been at the point where like I was like, oh, okay, like the Rickers win is not as impressive as I once thought it was. But the Rickers dominating Gabi revived me. So JP2, I don't know when where your chapel day is, but when you go to chapel, definitely give praises to Rickers when you bow your heads, because they have kept you in that number 5 spot in my personal rankings. But this is going to be interesting. For JP2, this weekend is actually their last home game this week. When they play Christ Church Academy. I believe that's the full name of that 1M team. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting, to see how JP2 plays, once they get past their final home game, because from here on out, after this week, they're on the road, even going all the way down to Boca Raton to play their other brother in JP2, John Paul the second. I'm definitely looking forward to that one when that time comes. And honestly, I'm ready to get to November. I've seen enough from NFC Monroe and JP2. I'm ready for them to have this 3-way battle now. But unfortunately, we gotta wait another month for this. But yeah, JP2 is my number 5.
I feel like Chris's biggest aspiration, or what he wants to see, is the old school districts, and they get in that 3-way tiebreaker on
Yeah.
that Monday evening, and they have to just battle it out, and that's who decides who wins it all.
I want them to bring that back. They need to bring that.
Can we not do? No,
No.
my schedule's already it's trying to kill me. I would not like that.
Yeah, especially with player safety, they're never going to allow that to come back. Having two varsity games in a week, yeah, no way.
No,
Hey, I'm a fan, so of course it'll be fun for us.
I'll have you cover it for us, Chris. How's that sound? Oh gosh. Moving into our top 4 here. I think this is where we all start agreeing. Straightforward once again. From here on out. I have Madison County. Took a hard loss to Columbia, 21-0. It's the first time they've been shut out by in-state opponents since 2015. Again, I said it last week. I don't think Madison County fans should be abandoning ship. I don't think they should be freaking out. I don't think anything like that is happening. They're once again, Madison County plays a unbelievable, crazy hard schedule, and Columbia is a good team. They're good. Last year, they were. I had my opinions about Columbia last year and how high they were ranked in playoffs and stuff like that, and their power rankings and stuff. But they're coming back still a very strong team this year now. And they showed how good they were. Giving Madison County the shutout. I think this, again, breakthrough weeks, this is the game I'm going to be at, and I'll talk a little bit more about it as we get further down the way. But Madison County plays Florida High. I know there's a few Florida High guys in here. That's going to be a huge, huge, huge game for Madison County. This was the turning point game last season for Madison County when they were dealing with all those suspensions and everybody was out and there was all this chaos over at Madison County. That Florida High game, they snapped Florida High's undefeated streak, which Florida High is undefeated right now. However, they're hosting the game this year. They snapped Florida High's undefeated streak, and then they proceeded to only lose one more game out of that, which was to Denillin, which was the team Price Harris, who is now the head coach at Madison County coach. They only lost one more game after that, and then they straightforward won 9 straight to go win the state title. That Florida High game was a big turning point for Madison County, and it could be another big turning point for them this year. However, I think this could be a very different game next year. It's at Southwood. Florida High is looking really good right now. They're very balanced. But again, Madison County could also be that shocker that comes in, plays that just gritty style of football, and they might come out on top. Florida High might come out on top. It's going to be a great game. That's why that's the game I'm going to be at. This is a big week for Madison County. After this, I think there are 3 more games that they could win through before it gets a little testy when Oakleaf. They go to Oakleaf. Ed White's another game I think they could win. And I know we talk a lot about Clearwater Academy International. I don't think they're as strong as they were last year. But this is a big week for Madison County. And yeah, I have them just jumping down one spot because some other teams have just had a little more of an impressive week last week than the Cowboys did. So, but however, it's still easy for Madison County to jump back up in the mix into the top 3, top 2, top 1. It's easy for them to jump back into it. I think Andrew opened last time. So Chris, who do you have?
Yeah, I also got Madison County at number 4. I mean, like the biggest thing, it's taking away from Madison County, Madison County is not as strong, as they used to be, as far as being like one of the the top dogs in the entire state. That's the biggest takeaway from this Madison County team, for this year. But even though they're not the top team, like one of the top teams in the entire state, they're still the top dog in their classification. Like, they're still light years ahead of everybody else. I mean, I'm looking at their classification. Like, I really don't see anybody that could still come close to Madison County right now. So, like, as far as Madison County's ultimate end goal as repeating state champs, like it is still a strong possibility for the Cowboys. But of course, they don't just expect championships over there. Like they want to be the one of the top dogs in the entire state of Florida, and they have a huge opportunity this weekend or this Friday against some Florida High, which that battle between Florida High and Madison County is always a pretty good one. That they're it's like a turning factor for both teams. Like, it's very important. It's a very important game for both teams. Like, you can honestly consider this game a rivalry at this point, because it's that much important. Just to win a game like this. But all in all, Madison County they're not the top one of the top teams in the state of Florida, but they're still light years ahead in their 1R classification. So, Andrew, I'll take it to you.
Yeah, I also got Madison County my number 4 spot. You guys are dunking on me last week for having Madison County there. I wonder if there's a change of tune here. It kind of reminds me of the 2019 season. I think that was the last time Madison lost back-to-back. They went in overtime. They lost to Lakewood and then played this same Columbia team, right, that they faced this past Friday. And then a lot of people started asking these same questions. Is Madison still Madison? Are they still whatever, this and that and that and this? Different field that year because they had already played Rickards and Florida High And I think for us, we can look at other teams around the state, and they're playing good teams and they're playing good programs. That's never something to be denied. But I feel personally, until they come to the Bend or get in the Bend schedule, because they almost always play Rickards, almost always play Florida High, until you get those, you really don't know what to expect as far as Madison being good to great to elite. And so that's still in flux for me. But looking forward to it. It's going to be a dope game here. And I'm liking a bounce back here for Madison. Yeah, like Jack said, first time in forever getting shut out. It's been a couple years since they lost back-to-back games. We know what the schedule is. But I'm looking for a good one. Don't sleep on Madison County, because I was at that game last year. And yeah, they came back strong, guys. And that was quite the performance for Madison, kind of that rebound game that you talked about. Jack kind of bouncing back. And, a lot of people had slept on him last year at that point because, of course, they had some tough losses. They got smacked up at Valdosta because they had almost the entire roster suspended, it seemed like. And then, of course, coming over to Charles and getting beaten last year. So they kind of, quote unquote, stumbled into that game versus Florida High. But, of course, a big response there. And we'll see. I mean, Florida High is not going to give it to them. They know what this is, man. These are our two December boys, as I like to call it. If you're putting odds down for the who's going to the state championship or who's going to win the state championship, these guys are top of your list every year. And so Super Bowl of the season, perhaps, so far here, guys, in this young venture. But I also got Madison number 4.
Got a few comments before we move on. Chris, you mentioned the rest of the classification. Got to give props to, a lot of teams still play an intense schedule here in 1A, similar to Madison County. Got to give props off to Pahokee down in the muck, as my friend Emily, who works over at Palm Beach Post, calls it, and it's known as down there. Pahokee knocked off Palm Beach Central by a wide margin last week, so they are back in this mix. And Hawthorne, Madison kind of played in the championship game, is not lost this year as well. In my opinion, those are the 3 front runners to get back to with Madison to get back to that championship game. These are 3 really hot teams in the rural division right now. And then jumping into kind of transition into my number 3 pick. Andrew, you mentioned, Florida High, Madison being kind of those December boys. I got one more in this mix here that talking to them today and just seeing what they're doing this year and how different they are. This is a team now that I see really continuing to push the heels of Florida High for that 2S spot in going deep into the playoffs, and that's Wakulla. They're my number 3 pick. You guys could talk more on them as well. This Wakulla squad, they're very different than they have been the past years, and I would say different in a good way. I'm talking to them today, the biggest thing that's changed from this year that has made them so just jumped up their elite level. Wakulla is always a very strong program, but just jumped up this elite level is they're not just a run heavy, rush heavy team anymore. They can do both. They can either, if they're pressured, if they can't run the ball, they have no problem passing it. If they have, if Hayden Cleese is being pressured too much, they have no problem rushing it off, and they will get the same results either time. This team is just impressive right now. And I feel good about this squad right now of just how good they look, how well they're just chugging along. Xavier Blake, great piece at running back. He's just been consistent from last year and taking over that spot Zamarian Smith had. Cameron Brinson, he's just been elevating that wide receiver role. Talking about Jeremiah Thomas again, who's just emerged as this huge piece on the color system as well. And you got to talk about the defense as well. Tanner Lanier, I think it is, returning back as that piece. And then Todd Williams, who is he still here? He just jumped out. No, I just talked to him today too. He's just been a great consistent piece over at Wakulla as well. Tulane commit, is just a beast. And they're just so well built. And this is another game this week that I'm going to be sending our FAMU reporter over to. They play Mosley, which this is the biggest game so far this year for Wakulla, hands down. If Wakulla gets this win here, I have no. I should say, depending on what happens in Florida High and Madison County, if Wakulla gets a win here, they have an argument for the top spot in the Big Bend right now, and they have a possible top spot, a chance of arguing a top spot in the state in 2S. That would be huge for them. The big thing is Mosley's a gigantic team. They are heavy. They are big. And Wakulla, granted, is also a bigger team as well, and they're gonna have to beat them, with the wheels and stuff like that. But I mean, Mosley's a huge game this week. That's another game I wish I could duplicate myself and be at. But I have Wakulla at 3 right now, and it's gonna be. I'm just gonna leave it at that. This is gonna be a big week for the War Eagles coming up. We'll get into it a little later. But Andrew, I believe you also have the War Eagles at number 3.
Yeah, so this top three is getting tougher every week, man. The way Florida High continues to play, and the way Wakulla continues to play, and then I'm excited for Lincoln to bounce back in a couple weeks, man. But week after week, this is getting tougher and tougher. I feel like the margins are getting razor thin at this point. But yeah, I also have Wakulla. Same reasons we talked about last couple weeks. So they're going to stay at 3 for me. Obviously, a big win last week against Bluntstown. You talked about Jack. Cleese has been slinging it. He, of course, accounted for all 4 touchdowns last week. Really adding a great dynamic. They're always going to play hard-nosed football, and they're always a team that's accustomed to success. So even though this squad is young and, they've kind of been downplaying all the narratives like you've been talking about, Jack, this is a team I think can get after it. And yeah, just to kind of sidebar, not to take it back a little bit, but also a little sleeper down there in Region 4. We talk about this rural classification that Madison or some of our other guys could run into. Newberry seems to have bounced back, and they're going to be down there with Hawthorne. That Region 4 team, you talk about as far as our part of the state, guys, with NFC, Monroe, St. John Paul II, that Region 4 down there in the rural classification with Hawthorne, Newberry, and Pahokee is just going to be an absolute hornet's nest down there, and that will be a battle-tested team. Of course, with the new reseedings and everything, it'll be wild if they get to the Final Four, if you will. But, of course, sidebar on that. But, yeah, I'm excited what I'm seeing from Wakulla. And, man, this young ball team, if they continue to grow, they're going to be a problem here in the best possible way. Fun to watch from what I've seen so far.
Yeah, I also got Wakulla at number 3. They have turned me into a believer. I mean, this team had, just like NFC, they are dominating and winning games like they are supposed to win. Like, this is the Wakulla that we've all known
Coming up. We'll get into it a little later. But Andrew, I believe you also have the War Eagles at number 3.
Yeah, so this top three is getting tougher every week. You talk about as far as our part of the state, guys, with NFC.
So long, like they are doing an amazing job, over there in Crawfordville. Like I said, multiple times, Coach Cleese, he always finds a way to get the most out of his players. No matter who they lose, after each season, they always seem get the most out of all that they can get in Crawfordville. I'm really looking forward to this weekend, this Friday when they battle Mosley, you guys said, that's gonna be a huge test to really see where this Wakulla team is at. Right now, Wakulla is definitely Florida High's biggest threat, and as far as the 2S classification. At first, I in the beginning of the season, I was I still Florida High, by a long shot. But now, it's getting more smaller and smaller each week. Just like with my visions with JP2 and NFC. At first, I was really feeling JP2 is the strongest team to go all the way through. But like now, like 4 or 5 weeks into the season, like NFC has said like hold on, Chris, we are still here, we got a lot of people that has come back this year, and we are definitely showing up and showing out week after week, dominating teams like we are supposed to. So it is just definitely fun to see what NFC and what color is doing. And man, I'm really looking forward to seeing like those two teams collide when that time comes. We'll see if those two teams can make it undefeated on October 21st, a month from now, which that would be crazy if both teams are undefeated around that time.
Yeah, I have to comment back on Andrew's little sidebar as well about Newberry. I mean, if things pan out in the way they have in the past, Madison County can kind of just watch everybody kind of beat each other up over there, unless Newberry is over up in this side of the region and all that. But Madison County could go watch kind of everybody beat each other up on that side of the state, and then meet them over at Cox. I believe it's going to be at again this year, but who knows? I mean, Pahokee has come up to Madison County before. We've seen that matchup happen in semifinals before. So, yeah, but no, who are we we're talking about Wakulla. Yeah, I mean, Wakulla has been an impressive team, and it's going to be a big week this week for them for sure. Moving into our top two, again, all agreeing here. So just touch on things. So I don't take up everything, but I have Lincoln here at number 2. Not that deep of a fall off for them from number 1 to number 2. This is still a team. I mean, it's still a feat to put up 70 plus points in back-to-back games this season. Only allow 6 points in 3 games. At the Bartram Trail team, they're long runs and then their defense to shut down Lincoln. It's a good Bartram Trail team, and Jimmy Tyson. I always confuse that. Jimmy Tyson. He really was straightforward with them after the game, and he's straightforward with me as well. He basically said that they deserved to win, and I'm saying that quote for quote verbatim. You can go look it up. That's what he told me. He just said that the effort was not there. He said verbatim in the quote. Again, you can look this up. It's in the story I wrote. That they drank some of the Kool-Aid and it got to them. And this, I'm interested to see how this week of practice is going for them, coming up with this Colquitt. I think I said that right. Colquitt game coming up. That's going to be huge. That's their turning point game coming up. And then even after that, they still have a scattering of games that are going to be very tough as well. But I mean, this is going to be a big week of practice for them, and Lincoln is going to need a big response coming into this week as well with that Colquitt team coming up, who is not just one of the best teams, in the Big Bend, Southwest Georgia area, but they're one of the best teams in Georgia right now. And we all know how deep the Georgia football scene is as well. I still think this Lincoln team could be good. I think last week, they just looked a little off. I think a big response is needed for them, but this off week is going to be beneficial for them. I think Chris was last. So Andrew, more on Lincoln.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have Lincoln also coming in my number 2 spot. Yeah, kind of echo more the same. I don't want to fall into the recency bias, and we look at the sample size. And Jack, even if we think a team, and Chris, we kind of talked about it a little bit too the other day off air. But even if you think a team is super dominant, it's so hard, guys, to run the table and be as sharp as you possibly are every single week. There's a reason why you don't see a lot of undefeated teams run the table here at the high school scene. It's just so hard. So Lincoln, definitely in the upper echelon of teams we got going on here. I'm not panicking if I'm a Lincoln fan. Obviously, they got some tape to watch, right? And they have some mistakes. And like you said, Coach Tyson, very verbal, honest about his opinions there. And, I trust that Lincoln's still going to be around the conversation at the end of the year. Obviously, you play tough games on purpose. And, of course, they had a tough game. This is a Bartram Trail. I feel like I kind of gaslit you guys that Bartram Trail wasn't. And then maybe other people, I don't know. But just to show you how much I don't know the high school scene, I thought Bartram Trail was down a little bit compared to last year. And the rushing game, I forget what that back was that went for over 200, but he was just an absolute beast. Really wasn't a big picture as much. Of course, he kind of got lost in the depth chart, it seemed, last year. That they had the running back that went ballistic on Thursday, and I hate to just kind of reference players generically like that, but it's really slipping my mind, and I'm grasping at straws here. But yeah, all that to say is Lincoln's solid. I think we've seen that. But yeah, they're going to get tested. It'll be a big game against Colquitt. Extra week to prepare. And then they've kind of got an interesting slate down the stretch, guys. Of course, get Leon, and we'll see what Rickards is looking like come mid-October as they get into district play. And then some, of course, the big Florida High one as the season capper. Maybe the finale for us guys to see kind of a winner take all potentially of our pseudo Big Bend championship game, if you will. What do you think about Lincoln, Chris?
Yeah, if I have to be honest, Lincoln was definitely one of the more disappointing teams of this past week. I was, that's definitely disappointed that they only put up only 7 points against Boston Trail. I was thinking going into this game they'll at least put up more points than just one touchdown. But nevertheless, this Lincoln team is still really good, football team, and this is definitely a much needed bye week, for the Trojans. They definitely gotta find themselves, this week before they go on the road to play one of the most well known, high school football teams in the country in Colquitt County. I'm not right now. I'm not as confident as I was prior to that Boston Trail game. But we'll see how can they bounce back after a disappointing loss to Boston Trail. But nevertheless, Lincoln still a really good football team that could definitely compete very strong within the Big Bend area, and a lot of opportunities for them to bounce back, especially next week if they can find a way to get a W over Coco County. That'll be crazy huge if they can do that. But the minor setback, and I think it's going to be a major comeback for the Trojans, right? But for now, I have to drop them down one spot after that loss of Boston Trail.
Also want to backtrack a little bit to Wakulla, to the two kids. Well, I don't think they're in here, but the two kids arguing under the Preps Instagram about why Wakulla was at 3 and not 2. Here you go. So stop arguing in my comments. I'm tired of looking at the notifications. Anyway, moving on to number 1. Number 1, Florida High. Team, in my opinion, that's done everything right so far too. They withheld a test against Trinity Catholic. Where they were getting used to some new systems for the first time, and everything went right for them to win that game. And they did the right things to win that game. They went through, won against Ponte Vedra, which was a strong road test. And then they've just blown through their last 2 games, 48-0, 48-2, 42-2, my bad. 42-0, my God. Can you tell I'm getting tired? And yeah. So anyway, but this is going to be their biggest test of the year, in my opinion, to this point. Madison County at home. This is always such a entertaining game. Very competitive. I think you can call it one of the closest rivalries we can in the area right now. I know rivalries, you can say what you want about them here and there, but I think this definitely stands as one of the better rivalries in the area just because these teams are so similar, so competitive. It's going to be a fun game out in Southwood. But I mean, there's so much working for this Florida High team. I think I'm excited to see both these teams push each other. That's the big thing. I mean, seeing Florida High run away with these 2 scores these past 2 games, I'm excited to see them get a little push and see how they respond for sure. Just so many weapons on this squad. I cannot say just enough about how well this team is doing too. And I think Andrew mentioned it as well. If things continue trending the way they are, we could have an impromptu all Big Bend or Big Bend championship game or Leon County championship game, whatever you want to call it, between Lincoln and Florida High, if things continue to stay the same way at 1-2. But I mean, Florida High looks good right now. I think they're in good shape to go into this really competitive matchup. Again, it's the reason why I chose this game. It's going to be a great one. It's going to be exciting to see, where everybody's at. And, if Florida High can avenge the loss from last season, it was a turning point for Madison County. Maybe this could be the big boost for Florida High going through the rest of their schedule. Andrew opened up last, so Chris, take it away with the Seminoles. Also, one more thing. I just remembered it. Want to give a shout out to Rolando Robbins over at Florida High. He took a trip up to Muncie, where I went to school at Ball State, and he's told me about his visit, and really enjoyed the campus and stuff like that. So it's always nice to see Big Bend guys getting up to my small little school. Well, it's like 22,000, so it's mid-sized school, group of 5. Love seeing guys get up there into Muncie. Special place to me. So I just wanted to put that out there. Anyway, over to Chris.
Yeah, the number one team I also have in the Big Bend area is
Oh my God.
Florida High, baby. Florida High is number 1. They are back at it. The Noles are back. The Noles are back at my number 1 rankings. Man, this team, they just come back like they told me like Chris, how dare you put us down at number 2 for a little bit? They came and showed up and showed out against Gaston County. I mean, Makai Danzy, the fastest man in the world. I'm saying the world, not just the nation, in the world. I mean, he has the Junior Olympic title. Like they got the speed over there. It is amazing what they are doing over at Florida High. I mean, the hype is on them. Like they haven't skipped a beat. 2 shutouts in a row over Taylor County and Gaston County. I mean, the hype is very high, with the Seminoles, going into this week and a very, big game that we already mentioned earlier that I'm, looking forward to, diving deeper down into when they, go up against Madison County, on Friday. But yeah, the Noles, they're here. They're not going away anytime soon. Yeah, I mean, I did mention earlier that Wakulla is Florida High's, biggest threat, but I know them Noles over there, like they can care less about what I just said. They are ready for anybody that's willing to play them week in, week out. They got a very interesting, exciting, schedule, for their next, 3-game slate. This week they got Madison County at home and then Monroe, not the week after, but not next week, but the week after. So is that going to be interesting? How Florida High can keep that consistency going. The Noles are my number 1.
Andrew, you're going to match that energy.
Impossible. But fantastic job, Chris. Can you tell that we have a band head in the house? Love that he's bringing the war gin in there. Jack, I don't think you'll be able to get the monetization here on this week's episode, man, with the copyright viation there.
Oh,
so,
probably not. No. Say goodbye to the ads.
Yeah. But so it'll be obviously got Florida High as my top dog here. Man, I don't know, guys. Just kind of looking over, watched a little more Florida High film this week. I don't know if it's just kind of ignorance from me or just kind of seeing it just so in your face. But it seems like Florida High's running a lot more 3-4 this year defensively, and it's just like turning these backers loose. And then the linemen are just eating, man. You get the 3 big boys with the hands in the dirt. Guys, they're averaging almost 14 tackles for loss a game this year. They're just getting in the backfield, and you see against these teams that they just loaded up, and they're daring teams to pass against them, especially the last 2 teams.
which is kind of going to bleed into a little bit of the Madison County preview of these run-centric teams. You even saw Gadsden open up the playbook a little bit last week, get a lot more different passing formations and so some variations. But you wonder, and I know Madison is trending towards a more pass-heavy offense as well under Coach Harris as compared to Coach Coe in the past. But it's going to be interesting, man. And, I mean, this defense is just mean this year. And I think we kind of continue to talk about some other squads offensively kind of finding their mojo and kind of developing in, like, a lot of conversations of that with Wakulla. I'm convinced that Florida High is trending that way as well, guys. Just the way they've been able to kind of take care of business lately, go on the road and hold Ponte Vedra to 2 scores and then, of course, back-to-back shutouts. This is going to be a tough one for Madison. And it's kind of why I have Florida High not only currently sitting at the 1, but looking forward. It's been mean, man. It's been mean. And excited to see some more Florida High this season. I mean, they play a fun brand of physical football, and, Coach Hickman's going to have them up to the task, guys. And hopefully we can get another deep playoff run out of the Seminoles this year. Not looking too forward down the road, but they're fun to watch for sure. And as Chris said, top dog this week for me in the ranks.
Yeah, no, they're looking good right now. I got to go back to Chris Cotton and what he was talking about the defense back at media day back in August, and I was like, God, this kid is so confident about their defense this year, and it's shown up big time. So I mean, it was worth every cent of it as well. Chris loved the energy so much as a fellow band kid. Love the appreciation for the marching band and the art that it is. So loved the little tune there as well, as Andrew mentioned. I don't know if we're gonna get any ad revenue on this space, but you win some, you lose some. Anyway, let's jump in.
No, before you go, Jack, let me get in. Another shout out. We talked about Chris Cotton, also kind of partner in crime, it seems, on that defense. I want to see if he's kind of up for that. We talked about last week, T3 Arnold getting the Tallahassee Quarterback Club Defensive Player of the Week. I want to see if Ryan Knight is falling into that conversation. Monster game for him, 7 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, 2 forced fumbles, 2 sacks. Part of a big defensive effort, Florida High. We talked about Gadsden County's rush offense, held them to 51 yards on the ground this past week, guys. Just wanted to include that little bit for Florida High here before we get the train on moving.
No, they've been all around impressive to say the least this year for sure. But anyway, let's jump into our predictions here to wrap things up tonight. So I'm just going in the order that Max Preps is going to drop it to us. Oakleaf at Childs. Again, this is a crazy week where there is like a billion games that I want to get out to, but just can't. Really wish they were spread out a little bit more so we could go to all of them. But again, you win some, you lose some. Oakleaf at Childs. I think this is the breakthrough game for Childs. They've gone through so much. They've been so close. This Oakleaf team's good. They're 3-1. Their only loss is at Baker County, who won the 4A regional last year to go to semi-states. I think this has the writings for a Cinderella story, in my opinion, for a Cinderella story time to win. A team that's been down for a while and finally gets that win. I think this is the week for Childs. I don't know what it is. I was driving around today and I was thinking about predictions. I'm like, you know what? I feel really good about Childs this week. I know it's probably going to be one of their harder games of the year, but you know what? I feel good about the Timberwolves. So I'm taking Childs in this game. If it is a bold pick over a 3-1 team, I like Childs this week. I think this is the week. And I might eat crow, but I don't care.
Yeah, I'm gonna drink the Kool-Aid with you, Jack. Like, like you said, Charles has been through so much pain. They have been through so much pain that I can't even imagine myself. They were so close against McCullough. They were so close against Fletcher. They got their butts kicked by Charles County Central, but that's a Georgia team. We ain't gonna worry about that. They were so close against Niceville out of all teams. And all those games were away. This game is at home. It's at Childs. They also call it the Wolf's Den over at Childs. The student section is going to be rocking. They're going to be with their team. I got Childs pulling the upset and getting their first victory this weekend over Oak Leaf. I'm going to drink the Kool-Aid for Childs just because of the way that they are fighting. With them having this game at home, I got the Childs Timberwolves, getting this W. Andrew, how you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to jump on board, guys, and I promise that Chris and I will not have identical picks this week. I'm just going to go out on that limb. I'm going to jump away from him at some point. Quick recap, not to go sidebar. Like I said, I also go in Childs. Oakleaf a little more run-centric than they are in what I remember from years past, and I think that favors Childs a little bit, so that should help them out defensively. We talked about the running game, the offensive line, and the defensive line being some of the strengths for Childs here. But I had it. Here we go. Last week, just to put this out there as we were going down our picks, Chris went 9-3 last week. Of course, going all 12 games. 8-3 for myself, Jack 7-4. So I just want to throw that out and throw that into the mix. But yeah, I think this will be a really close one. And honestly, I want to pick our team. So tiebreaker is our hometown teams. Give me Charles.
Let me know I did not pick DRS that week, and I'm paying for it. So, thank you, Andrew.
Gotta believe, Jack. I think DRS is on bye this week. Going in feeling happy. Once again, shout out to the Rattlers breaking that 715-day winless streak. Good to see our Big Bend boys on the right side of the result column this past week. So shout out to the Rattlers. Big win against Bronson.
Absolutely. The Eagles, speaking of teams that are Big Bend guys looking to get some wins here this year, snap that goose egg, crack that goose egg, whatever you want to call it. Gadsden County at Tift County. I think the big thing is I just watching this Gadsden County team. The Gadsden County is a wonderful defense. I love their defense. It's the offense I think that just needs some organization. I don't really like, again, not a fan of picking against our area teams, but I have to go with Tift County here. These are two teams that have not won a game. Both two teams have played brutal schedules. However, Tift County had Coffee, who that's Mike Coe's new team. They played Colquitt. Colquitt. I need to get that right by next week. Lost to them. Lost to Thomasville. I have to go with Tift here. It's at Tift County too, so I have to go with Tift County here, breaking their losing streak. For Gadsden, I think they just need, again, it's just a team that needs to get some things together. I think there might be some wins coming down the way, but I have Tift County this week. Guys, who do you guys have in this game?
Yeah, I also got Tift County. Somebody's got to win. Somebody's going to come away with their first victory. I'm leaning towards Tift County. With this game being, at Tift County, like that definitely makes a huge difference. I love the Gadsden County defense as well. They can definitely, play over there. Like, it's their offense that, they just can't do anything. But I do believe that they can have a little bit of success in the first two quarters, but I don't see them succeeding this Friday. They'll fall to 0-5 unfortunately for the Gaston County Jaguars, but a lot to look forward to in their remaining games of the season. Andrew, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm gonna go contrarian pick here, guys. I like it. I've been looking at the schedule, trying to see where I could get Gadsden County with the breakthrough. Breakthrough Friday this week. I'm going Gadsden. Tift a little down this year, like we said, 0-4. Of course, have some games that have been kind of one-sided, but we know are good, or are usually good teams up there. Of course, in the South Georgia region, when you talk about Thomasville, and obviously we know Coffee County is a power up there, one of the larger schools, like you said, Jack, that Coach Coe's up there. They're looking pretty good. I like Gadsden. Opened up the playbook a little bit last week. Very systematically was in a wishbone, kind of flex bone alternating. It seemed like they were kind of telegraphing their passing plays. But even looking back at the Florida High game and obviously knowing the result against Florida High, they started to see some progress there. And, just like we talked about Taylor County, opening up a little bit and some other teams, this is another one with a new coaching regime, and they're still trying to get their foot on this new season. New coach, new quarterback, new offense, guys. I like week 5 for them to get things kind of organized a little bit, and this could be their best chance in not only so far this season, as we talked about their strength of schedule, but of course going forward. As you look about over the next couple of weeks, they'll have a bye after this one. You get the Soul Bowl coming up. You get into Mariana, Columbia, the next couple of weeks slate here. So, Gaston County, you're kind of looking at this one. It's like, hey, guys, this could be our week. Let's ball out, go get it on the road.
All right, mixing it up here. Like you said, picks aren't going to be identical this week for between you and Chris. So first mix up here. So let's dive into it. Bigger game this week. I mentioned this is Wakulla's biggest game of the year so far, in my opinion. Mosley is making the trip down to Crawfordville. War Eagles. I talked to Wakulla today, and they seem confident. And you know what? The one thing I've fallen victim to here is confidence is very intoxicating, but I'm gonna go with it still. I mean, even in that regard too, Wakulla looks really good. There's no reason, in my opinion, other than not really to pick against them. I mean, they've held up on defense so well lately. Their offense has expanded so much. They talked about just the benefit of being able to, if they're going to get shut down in one area, they're going to go to the other, and they can just flip flop with ease. The biggest thing that I'm worried about for Wakulla is just how much their defense is going to take. Todd Williams, still a great piece on the defense. Tanner Laner, a great piece on the defense as well. But this is a big Mosley team. They're big Mosley team. They have Randy Pittman, who I don't know where he's at right now. But I believe he decommitted from Florida State. I'm not sure where he has decided on right now, if he has decided yet. But he is a big guy that can move. This is a very big Mosley team. However, I feel good about Wakulla. I think the offense has that traditional speed as we see from these Wakulla teams, and you're having that receiving element thrown into it as well. I think this is going to be a win for Wakulla, and I think we're going to see this team continue just to explode out of this game. I'm gonna throw it over to Andrew.
Yeah, I'm going to agree on this one. I'm liking Wakulla as well. It'll be interesting to see what Mosley brings to the table. I know it was kind of a situation that we talked about last week when they went into their game against Leon, but they kind of had a little quarterback battle, and it looks like their sophomore, Sam Freitas, seems to have emerged. He's been slinging it. So I think a team that goes a little more pass-heavy kind of favors Wakulla a little more. They do have a pretty balanced offense, just kind of looking at it. Saw a little bit of tape on Freitas, but if they get the young quarterback, it should be interesting. I like Wakulla with some their athletes on the perimeter, and then of course a little bit of pass rush getting in the mix there. I like Wakulla taking care of business at home. And this is a question out of ignorance. I don't have it in front of me. District game? Yes or no between these two?
No. I believe Mosley is up in 3.
Chiles. Yep. Sorry.
Mosley's up in 4, yeah, and then Wakulla's down in 2.
Yep. So I got these mixed up. Yeah, they're with Charles and Leon and those guys. Okay, so that's my bad. So not a district game.
Chris, take it over.
Yeah, it's not a district game, but it still feels like it, like just with the like how good both teams are playing, like this is definitely Wakulla's biggest test as far as the season. They got mostly at home, which is a very huge deal. Like this is Wakulla's chance to open up. Not just in Big Ten, but in 2S. As well. It's let everybody know that they are for real this year. I am leaning towards Wakulla to get a close victory, over Mosley.
It's gonna be a great game out in Crawfordville. Again, would want one of the games I want to just duplicate myself and get to. This is going to be a fantastic game. Hopefully it's going to be a fantastic game. I don't know. Games predictions have been very weird this year, with just the games either being tight or blowouts. So, moving on. Christchurch Academy at John Paul. I got the Panthers here. Like I said earlier, I think they're just going to roll through this stretch, and Christchurch Academy is just another part of it. It's just another brick, as they say out in Southwood. So, Chris, who do you got for John Paul Christchurch Academy?
Brick by brick, JP2 domination. I don't expect this to be close. Like JP2, they're going to run, Christchurch Academy out of the building back to Jacksonville, where they belong over there in Duval County. So yeah, JP2. I think that's where they're from, in the that area. Andrew, how about you?
Yeah, one of those Metro squads. Yeah, they're within the city limits of Jacksonville. They kind of get a weird situation as far as football. They've been kind of flirting with independent lately. I know they're a big soccer program, but of course, looking at their football stuff and trying to do some research into them, I think JBG's got too much firepower coming over here. Like you said, Chris, I think last home game of the season. I like the Panthers here, especially coming out of the bye week. Get it right, get it tight, and I see Panthers jumping up to 4-0, and we'll create another interesting dialogue to talk about the JP2 Monroe NFC three-headed monster that we talk about so often here in the area.
I just remembered this now, and it was kind of funny. I didn't know if you guys knew about it. But last year, JP2 played Harvest Community, and JP2 was beating them so bad. Like, I think in the beginning of the second quarter, Harvest Community literally packed up and left, and JP2 won via forfeit. I don't know why I just remembered this now. Because you mentioned it's a Jacksonville school, a private school that's been dealing with classification stuff like that. So I wanted to bring that up because I just remembered it and I thought it was kind of funny. But anyway, I have to get back to the page now. Okay,
they had to beat the traffic, Jack. You know how it is going east on I-10.
Oh, they were worried about the I-10 traffic. No, of course. No, it gets rough around Jacksonville and all those interchanges. It can get stressful, to say the least. Valwood, North Florida Christian on the road. NFC Valwood, up in Georgia. Two teams both 4-0 right now. I don't really have a reason to pick against NFC right now. I think this team is chugging along. I think this was a competitive game last year. And again, NFC is a different team than last year. Valwood's been playing a lot of private schools. Georgia Christian's on the schedule. Robert Toombs as well. Some of those teams that are on a Scylla schedule. I like Valwood here. Now, I'm sorry. Whoa. No. Not so fast. I spaced out. No, I can't say that here. No, I have the Eagles. Like I said, I don't have a reason to pick against them right now. They're just rolling. So I'm sorry to offend my two other hosts here. So, Andrew, pick it up.
Yeah, not offended, Jack. It was just complete shock. What a twist. With the old bait and switch. I thought it was just a nice little setup job there, man.
I have my dog's ball in my hand, and I was playing with it, and I think I just lost focus. And as soon as I said that, I'm like, oh, I can't say that.
Yeah, I think this game is probably talked about one of the more difficult ones to predict. I think this one is one of the top two. It'll be interesting to watch. I think Valwood's defense is a lot better than it was last year. Of course, you talked about how crazy that game was between these two squads. I think it was 55-44, as I'm trying to pull random stats out of the air here and go off my memory. But Valwood, so far in their schedule, I think they only had one win up until this point last year, playing a lot of the similar schools and seem to be faring a lot better. Of course, not being super familiar with the South Georgia small ball scene, can't really do any indication of that. But Jack, I'm kind of on the same sentiment. I've got no reason significantly to pick against the NFC, but this could be another thriller, and should be really fun to watch. I don't think they're going to combine for 90 plus points this time around. You could be seeing somewhere something wild, though. I could see like a little 34-28 situation, something with, 3-4 touchdowns at least either way. But I'm like an NFC, man. Another road test. Should be a fun one, but give me the Eagles on this one.
Yeah, both teams are undefeated at 4-0. Valwood, they beat Robertson Christian Academy 40-28. They beat Georgia Christian 39-14. All good wins. Being 4-0 is definitely not easy to do. But let me tell you this. They have not seen a team like the 2022 edition of the North Florida Christian Eagles. I got NFC dominating this game. This game is not even going to be close this Friday. Wow. It's going to be total domination, just like how we saw NFC dominate these past 2 weeks over Taylor County and who else they played? Taylor County, Leon, Jefferson County. That's how it's going to be. It's going to be controlling all Leon Washington, all Traylon Ray, all JP Pickles. NFC domination.
Well, Andrew, you said my pick was bold.
Get him, Chris. What are you talking? I mean, since you're gonna go after it, are we talking 4 touchdowns? What's a domination for the record? Since we got this Joker on tape.
No, yeah, this is on record. Chris, come on, unmute your mic.
Yeah, it's domination. I do not expect it to be close. This is not going to be a close game. I'm thinking 51-10 kind of deal.
Oh my God,
that's the domination that I'm expecting this week. I do not expect Valor to compete this week. You heard it first, for folks.
Well, Zion's still in here, so he'll be able to correlate the message over to all his teammates tomorrow or even now. Oh my gosh.
For the record, NFC alumni with the prediction there. Just want to throw that into the mix.
That is true. Oh Lord. We're gonna move back and we're gonna switch sides of the city, heading down to the south side now. Rickards and Edison, another good game. Another just one that's just so flashy, one that it's one that's just popular in my opinion. Coach Luther is going to be down there, who has just been just a central point on social media. Love that guy. He is a jack of all trades, to say the least. The coach over at Edison got a lot of talent in this game. So much going on. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a great environment over at Rickards. Oh God. Hold on. I can't decide right now. I'm going to say, unfortunately for our locals, I'm going to say Edison wins this one. I think the Miami scene's deep. I think coming off a game against Northwestern, you're seeing a lot. Rickards is coming off that win as well. Did a lot well. I think it was a different type of matchup. I think I just have Edison in this game. I'm gonna leave it at that. Leave off with. Let's go back to Chris.
Yeah, and you said, this game is gonna be played at Rickards, like not at Gene Cox. They are going to Rickards, actual turf. They call it the Dead Sea over there. This is going to be really, really interesting. Playing over there, Miami Edison. It's always tough playing anybody from Miami, because they're just that good. Like the Miami schools are like the cream of the crop of all of high school football in general. this game is going to be very competitive. Man, it's tough. I think I'm going to go with Edison on
Right,
this.
it's hard. It's tough.
Yeah. Like it's. I think that this is gonna be a close game, but like Edison pulls out at the end. But if I'm eating crow, for any game, I would happy to eat crow for this game because nothing will make me more happy than beating a Miami high school.
Yeah, this is definitely the toughest one, and based on the nature of your guys, how it sounded coming from this end, it seemed like you really labored over those. Same for me here. Interesting team to kind of figure out. I've been hearing kind of some mixed messages on what North Miami looks like this year, and of course that's the only win for Edison. But then you look at the schedule. They played Booker T and Northwestern, who are perennial powers down there, in what was kind of the former 4-5, 6A, depending on the year. Obviously, Rick, sour taste in their mouth from previous run-ins with South Florida teams. You think about American Heritage in the championship game. I don't know if you guys remember the big preseason game that Northwestern came up for. They had like this classic maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, and Northwestern really took care of business. I like Rickards on the up and up, guys. I'll give a little upset for Rickards at home. Plus, I'm trying to make up some ground on Chris. I'm a half game behind Chris. Plus, when in doubt, I'm going to back our Big Ben boys.
For an upset.
Yeah, we need to get some rule change clarifications. Maybe week 6 for halfway through the season, we'll get some multipliers in here. Maybe.
Oh my god! But again, I had to take math over 3 times in college, so that's all you. Oh my gosh. Anyway, moving on to our next game here. Jefferson County at Dixie County. Circle it, highlight it, bold it. I think Jefferson County wins in this game. Jefferson County's been through the gauntlet in their games early on this season. You got Baker, who's a rural power, 1A power. You had North Florida Christian. You had JP2. You had Port St. Joe. All really strong teams on the road. I think Jefferson County gets it done. Coach Norris's first win as a head coach will happen here on Friday. Go ahead.
Yeah, Jack. I am going to drink that Kool-Aid as well. I think that this game is going to be the game that Jefferson County, finally gets that victory. Against the Dixie County. Dixie County not looking, too strong. This season it's going to be a close one. It's definitely going to be a battle to the end that I won't be surprised if this one even goes into overtime like that. That's how close it's going to be. But I think that Jefferson County is going to find a way to get that last point at the end to get their first W before they battle FAMU DRS next week. Andrew, who you got?
Man, I'm liking the pick, Jack. It would be interesting to see how Jeffco does because they fared really well against Baker. You guys talked about it. Guys, that was a 9-point game. It was 21-12 late in the third quarter. Baker pulls away late in the fourth, but they were hanging tough with the Gators, to which we know is a perennial power down there in kind of the small ball situation. Yeah, Dixie County is kind of up and down, guys, but I remember they had a couple big matchups with Madison in the regular season not too long ago. Madison took care of business, but it would be interesting to see Dixie County. Of course, they had a big win against Trenton earlier today, and they dropped a 22-0 game against Lafayette. Which is a team that Taylor County narrowly beat. I know when you try to use the transitive property, Jack, I know don't want to get into too mathy for you, and it never works cleanly, right, when you try to do it the high school ranks, but just trying to think of where Taylor County is, Lafayette is, Dixie County is, to kind of measure up as I'm trying to leaf through some things, because I couldn't really find much on Dixie County this week. This is probably the third hardest game to pick. But if we're going to do this thing, I'm going to jump on this bandwagon, man. Give me Jeffco. I feel like this is, I'm going to say, since we're targeting a high school audience, I'm going to say this is a popping, sparkling cider week. A lot of teams getting a breakthrough here.
What? What?
Just
Sparkling
like,
cider.
we're not popping champagne, guys.
Oh, I got
So
you.
we're popping some sparkling cider, some celebrations, some big breakthroughs. I'm trying to update it, guys, but according to my list, as of kickoff on Friday, Jefferson County currently our second longest streak since their last win. By the time we touch base next week, Jefferson County would be looking at 358 days since the last dub. Guys, called the FAMU streak being broken last week, and I'm feeling similar vibes. Hopping on the train. Give me Jeffco.
Yeah, I thought when you were talking about, you said pop like cider or something like that, and I'm like, is this some sort of slang that I don't know? I was like, I'm like, and then you mentioned, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So, no, I'll do my probably best, which is probably an awful Ed Ogeron impression. Go Tigers! That's how we're
There it
feeling
is.
that's how we're feeling
Yeah.
this week. Another game that's it's just a rough schedule setup for Godby. Godby is going to be playing Thomas County Central. I have Thomas County Central here. I don't know if I can get Fridays off or if this will even happen. No, it's not happening. But it would be an amazing game if Colquitt was playing Thomas County Central, because these two teams are red hot this year. I have Thomas County Central on the road. Game's actually going to be at Cox. I have Thomas County Central at Cox winning this one. Godby's just in a rebuilding phase, and oh my gosh, they scheduled a deep schedule to start off the season. But the Thomas County Central is just looking really good right now.
Yeah, I mean, this game can be played on the moon, and Thomas County Central is still going to beat the daylight out of Godby. Like this is not close at all. Like, my condolences to Godby. Thomas County Central dominates. Long day for.
Oof. Thomas County Central is loaded, guys. We kind of talk about it, not just the 4-0 record, but knowing who they beat. I got some buddies in the high school scene up in South Georgia. They say Central is legit this year, guys, and they've just been putting up monster numbers here so far this season. I'm going to go with the Jackets as well. Hop on the bandwagon so we get the clean sweep here. They're a really good ball club, and it's a shame because was it last year that Florida High played Thomas County Central? If they replayed this year, I think that game would be very, very interesting. But of course, that's just fantasy talk there.
No, that'd be a loaded matchup. They did play last year, and I think Florida High. I think they won pretty soundly. It was a week 1 matchup, but no, yeah, that would be amazing if that happened this year. But you win some, you lose some. I've been saying that a lot last night, but tonight. But anyway, let's move on. I had kind of our big game coming up next, but I'm going to shuffle some things around. Leon at Navarre. I'm going to go with Navarre here, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than a lot of people expect. Leon has been very competitive for 3 quarters. It's just the 4th quarter. I think they've been starting to run out of gas here. I mean, they pushed Monroe, they pushed NFC. These last 2 games have been a little rough for them, but I think they go to Navarre, and I think they play a pretty competitive matchup, but I still have Navarre in this one. However, Leon, I love what Coach McGriff is doing over there. This program is looking very good so far. They're going to be good in a few years, but it's just a building year for them right now. I have Navarre in this game.
Yeah, I like Navarre as well. I mean, Navarre, like they are a confusing team. Like, they're the most confusing West Florida team on the planet. Like, you just never know what kind of a Navarre team you're going to get. Like, they go out, one day, beat up on a team like Rickers, and next day they're like struggling to get away against Tate. I mean you just never know what kind of a DeVar team you're going to get, but I do think that DeVar has enough to have a controlling victory over Leon. But like you said, Jack, Leon is definitely getting better. Like they got the right coaching staff. Intact. It's just need time over there at the Lions Den. I got Navarre.
Yeah, my buddies out in the Panhandle say Navarre is up this year, guys. So I'm kind of riding that train. I got some big boys in the trenches for the Raiders. And so obviously we talked about Leon kind of in a rebuild mode, liking what we're seeing. Also, they got a sophomore running back, guys, who is just an absolute beast. Eddie Love Jr. He put up 197 and 2 touchdowns last week against Tate. And he is high profile. He's on the brink of breaking 500 rushing yards for the season already so far with 2 monster games, one against Fort Walton and one against Tate. Just shy of 100 yards when he played Rickards as well. And I think the trenches and Eddie Love Jr. are going to be enough for a Navarre team, unfortunately, to go past Leon.
Yeah, I want to echo what Chris said. This Navarre team is just the most confusing, weirdest team in West Florida. I mean, last year Leon almost beat them. I think it was a game that Jack Brooks, the kicker who is now at FAMU, threw a touchdown in. They almost won that game, and now Navarre is really taking the reins this year, really flipping things around, so they're kind of hard to read. But moving into our final 3 matchup, I believe it's final 3, yeah. Monroe at Bradford. I'm not sure. I mean, one of you guys are gonna have to take this over. I need a minute to think about this one.
Go for it, Chris. You got it, man.
Yeah. This game, is definitely an interesting one, for both teams. Monroe got a much needed bye week, after a heartbreaking defeat to Wakulla. Um, this game is on the road. Bradford, looking really good. They had, all their games, in shutout fashion. This game is definitely not going to be a shutout. It's going to be a close game, but I am leaning towards Bradford to, get this victory over Monroe. I think it's going to be a close one, but I'm not sure if Monroe is ready for that level just yet. But I definitely can't be wrong on this pick right here. Andrew or Jack, who you guys got?
Oh, since Jack wants a little more sample size, I'm not going to make the decision any easier. Going to split this one. I like what I'm seeing from Monroe. Bye week to prep for this one. Bounce back, long week, and the bye week to get ready for this one on the road. I think they go out there to Stark and take care of business. I like what I'm seeing from Monroe, reflected in the power rankings, of course. And so I'm going to ride this train, support the Big Ben boys as much as possible here, man, whenever I can. So I'll give me Monroe this week.
So I think this is going to be a competitive one. I think it's going to be narrow. I do not think Bradford's going to continue this shutout streak. However, I see them coming away with a win here. It's at Bradford. I've been talking to my friend Ainsley Lee over at the Gainesville Sun, who covers Bradford, and she's saying they've just been electric. She tried to get out to the East Side game before I kind of pressured her to go to the Madison County Columbia game instead. But she's talked a lot about this Bradford team as well. I was looking at their wins. A win over Eastside does look good, but when you look at Eastside's record, it's not as flashy. Well, I mean, they're 2-1, so it does look a little better, I guess. But I mean, the big one that stands out to me is that win over Baldwin. Yes, you can talk about how it was the first game of the season. The first games, aren't too indicative of how seasons will go. But Baldwin, it was a 35-0 win, and Baldwin later went on to beat Baker County, who won their region last year and is still a very strong team. On the road against an undefeated team that knows how to score. I think Monroe is still putting some systems in. It's going to be competitive. I will not be surprised if Monroe comes out with a win here. But right now, I am leaning towards Bradford right now in Stark. So yeah, that's my pick for this game. It took me a few seconds to get that answer in, but we're gonna move on to our second to last game. Taylor County at Bluntstown. You know, I've watched two Bluntstown games, and one in the preseason, one now, and it was two teams just beating up on them. And it was not. I don't think it was very indicative about how good Bluntstown is this year, because the first one was Ocala and the second one was Florida High in the preseason. Bluntstown's still a very good small school. They're still a force in rural. I'm gonna go with Bluntstown here in this one. Yes, Taylor County's been battle tested, but again, so is Bluntstown. They played Wakala. They have a win over Mariana, a tight win over Mariana, and then NFC had a tight win over Mariana as well. Rutherford, Freeport. I mean, they go out of the way to get some of these good teams in. I think Taylor County is going to be competitive in this one, but I think Bluntstown wins it with a little more space. So throw it over to Chris. Who do you got for this game?
Yeah. I'll lean towards Bluntstown for the victory. Like, Taylor County, like, they still need some time, to compete. With like those top teams. Like Bluntstown, like although like I said that Madison County is light years, ahead of like everybody in the 1R classification. Bluntstown, along with like you guys mentioned with Pahokee and Hawthorne, I believe like that's another team that like has a shot like going some ways in the playoffs and potentially like competing with Madison County, along with Port St. Joe as well. But like just keep it on Bluntstown for the sake of this like prediction. I got Bluntstown winning this game over Taylor County. Andrew, who you got?
Yeah, this one was tough for me. Man, I wish I had one more day to kind of do a little more research, to be honest, guys. Because this one, I was going back and forth. I want to see how Bluntstown is in the trenches. Because I thought at times last week, I was liking what I saw with Taylor County, getting a great push against NFC, who we talked about an improved defense, with Jaquan Clayton going up against them. And so, man, this is a tough decision for me here. I like Clayton and I like the skill guys. Man, especially with their opportunity to break through on special teams too. Because I felt like once or twice they were just inches away from just ripping one against NFC. Maybe get some flack for a homer pick here, guys, but I'm going to go contrarian again. I'm going to go Taylor County. Obviously, a couple tough weeks versus that gauntlet that we talked about, NFC and Florida High. Chris brought in some Lizzo. I'm gonna bring in some Kelly Clarkson. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And so let me get Taylor County going on the road, a little upset special out there in Bowles versus Bluntstown. But it should be a good one. That should be a late result, guys, over in the Central Time Zone. So maybe able to get a sneak peek down the stretch if our games take care and are quickly decided here in the early going on Friday night.
I love the Kelly Clarkson, man. That was awesome.
Yeah, we're gonna. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, had to switch it up, man. We just keep doing the same thing. It's like, I mean, obviously promoting Big Ben here, right? But if people just want to hear three people say the exact same thing all over again, I gotta add some friction here. And if I get buried, I'll gladly go down with these Big Ben boys, for the record.
Why don't I make this pick a little more spicy? So, got a big game out here at Southwood between Florida High and Madison County. You got a gritty tough Madison County team versus a very balanced attack from Florida High. At home, 4-0 against a 2-2 team. They want revenge on them. And guess what? I'm not picking for this game because I'm covering it. So, Chris, pick.
Man, oh man, this game is a game that the whole city of Tallahassee should be attending. I know the whole city of Tallahassee right now is attending the Earth, Wind, and Fire concert. I hope everybody is going to keep that same energy for the game this Friday, that was I consider the game of the week between Madison County against Florida High. This game is going to be at Florida High. Florida High is 4-0. Madison County 2-2. Both teams play tough teams up to this point. Florida High, huge victories over Ponte Vedra and Trinity Catholic, dominating against Taylor County and Gaston County, both in shutout fashion. Whereas Madison County currently on a 2-game winning streak. When was the last time we've said that? I can't.
Streak. Sorry.
Oh, what was that?
2-game losing streak.
Yep. Two-game losing streak. When was the last time we've said that? I can't remember the last time we have said, Madison County is currently on a 2-game losing streak, and they definitely do not want to be on a 3-game losing streak. What was the last time Madison County has been on a 3-game losing streak? Like does anybody know from the Max Preps history books on that? Because that's definitely at stake right now. But this team is definitely going to compete. Madison County is going to compete very strong. But I got the Seminoles giving the victory. This game is at Florida High. It's going to be all Chris Carlton, all Makai Dancy, all Popel. Man, the Noles are going to find a way to get it done and claim that they are still the top dog in the Big Bend. Andrew, how are you feeling?
There you go, Chris. I like it. I like it a lot, Chris. Yeah, this one will be good. From an intellectual standpoint, is just let's see where Madison is, right? I think this will tell us a lot about where Madison is. Of course, under the new regime and coming off that 2-game losing streak. And Chris, just for some bookkeeping, 2019 was the last time Madison lost back-to-back. It was Lakewood Ranch and Columbia. That was a really good Lakewood Ranch team, but both those games were on the road. A lot of road games that year. Sidebar, whether this influences conversation or not, they did beat Florida High that year. And they also beat Bluntstown, who we've been talking about a lot, and on their way to the state championship. Of course, totally different ball clubs, totally different teams, players, coaches. So you know how all that stuff goes. But sticking to the rankings, I think Florida High is our top dog for a reason. So until we see otherwise, I got to keep rolling with Florida High here, guys. I'm gonna follow suit with Chris and of course Jack, abstaining for professional reasons, which is understood. But it should be a fantastic game. Jack, you'll have to text us in or tweet out your dad's pick, since he'll be down there at the game. A little celebrity pick, maybe in lieu of your selection.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely gonna pick with him at the Florida High game, and then we head over to the Florida High College, if you want to call it Florida State, the next day to go watch the BC game too. So it'll be a fun weekend. But want to add to the Chris as well. The last time Madison County lost 3 straight back in 2015, lost to Rickards in week 1, Brooks County in week 2, and then Wakulla in week 3. However, guess who they snapped that losing streak against?
No, Florida High.
They beat Florida High 14-10. However, they did lose to Trenton in state semifinals, and Trenton went on to win state that year. Again, as Andrew said, different teams, different years. But, as I've mentioned before, this game has been a focal point. It has been a game changer. It has been a It changes the pace of seasons. It couldn't change. It can't change the pace of seasons. I mean, after this game, Florida High last year didn't really seem to have an issue, but Madison County really picked things up last year. So this is once again going to be a game that you're going to want to get to as well. Again, my dad's flying down from Chicago just to watch this game, not to see me, just to watch this game. So, but yeah, that's all we got tonight. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. I think we're just about wrapping up at the same exact time we did last time. But anyway, catch up with us on Friday night. I think we're going to try to get a 10:30 start time so we're not running around and stuff like that. Andrew, do we have a location where you're going to be at, or do we have to wait on that?
To be announced here in the next day or so.
TBD. All right, we'll be waiting for that announcement there. But yeah, no, meet us up again 10:30. We'll be discussing all the Week 5 results. I'll have my dad come in and give some commentary as well, because he'll be here. But yeah, thank you all for joining us again, and have a good night. And yeah, it's late, so get to sleep.
Take care, guys. Thanks for joining in. Appreciate it, Jack. Let's go, Big Ben boys.
Good luck this week to everybody. Woo!